one of the big turnaround stories of the industry is Tata Motors. In fact, they've come out from the pandemic stronger than ever. And one of their star products has been the Tata Harrier. Now, quite frankly, the Harrier got off to a slightly slow start. It had gone down all the way to just 500 units a month. That's not what the company had wanted. But it has now bounced back to over 4 times, over 2,000 units a month. And to understand what has made this product tick, we've come right here to where the Harrier is actually made, to understand what's gone into it. And no one better to tell me about this than Mr. Rajendra Petkar, the ERC head, the technical boss of the company. Thanks, Mr. Petkar, for talking to us, and congratulations. I'm sure it's been a very exciting time for you, because just looking at the way all your products are firing right now. But specific to the Harrier, we've come over here. What I've seen is quality, quality, quality. That's really been, to be honest, a moving target for Tata Motors a lot of time. But you seem to have now hit the target where we are right now. So just, if you can just go back 2 years and tell us the journey from when this car was launched and how it's evolved today.
So Harrier as a premium SUV got launched in January 2019. And if I have to talk in few words about what the Harrier is a strong and the premium SUV, which is a perfect blend of style and the performance. And there are many distinguishing features in the Harrier. Whether you talk about the powertrain, you talk about the infotainment, you talk about the ride and handling, you talk about infotainment screen size, the instrument cluster, you name it. There are a number of unique path-breaking things which are perhaps the industry first in the segment that the Harrier today is operating. So we started from then. January 19 was the official launch of Harrier. And as you said, initially there was a slow start, and of course it was a combination of number of factors. We also had sort of a degrowth in the Indian market. So that also had some effect as far as the Harrier performance is concerned. But nonetheless, from then we have moved on. We listened to the customers very carefully in the beginning. And when actually the turn came for the migration from the BS4 to BS6, we decided to actually up the game even further by introducing many new things, many new features, and significantly improving the vehicle overall performance. And not to forget about the quality which you mentioned. There was, I would say, the offensive as far as the quality is concerned. And from where it started to where it is today, there has been a significant uptick as far as the quality performance of the product is concerned.
You talked about BS4 to BS6. That really was a transformation. A more powerful engine.
Yes.
Sunroof, automatic.
Yes.
3 things which worked.
Yes.
I mean, I would ask you, why didn't this come in the beginning, and why did it take 1 year to bring in? Was it a question of timing? I know from BS4 to BS6, you can't have too many calibrations. Fiat, you have to pay a lot to it. But things like a sunroof, automatic, I mean, they were delayed. Now it's come. So just to understand, in terms of a process, why did it take so long? And now that it's here, how did you actually quickly engineer these things and make it the success it is today?
So when we launched the Harrier in January 2019, it was with the 140 horsepower diesel engine.
And just a manual gearbox.
And it was just a manual transmission. But that time we were absolutely clear that the BS6 transition is around the corner. And therefore, does it really make sense to start with both the manual and the automatic and with the 140 horsepower? And so therefore, we decided to take the BS6 as a turning point. And as you rightly said, not too many interventions, not too many calibrations, because for the small volume in the market, then you need to also service it for a longer period of time. So therefore, as a part of a strategy, we knew that the automatics is the need of the hour. It was part of the plan, and therefore we coincided that with the launch of the BS6.
Right. So, Mr. Petkar, what's also very unique about this product, it's a very international product in the sense it's done with Indian know-how. It's a Land Rover platform, the Fiat engine, and there's a Hyundai transmission. So it's very international that way. But bringing it all together, was that a challenge? Firstly, dealing with the suppliers, then integrating everything, getting everything to talk to each other. That must have been quite a challenge. So just talk us through that.
Yeah. So, for Tata Motors, working with the Fiat is not a new thing, because we have a joint venture with Fiat. So therefore, it was but one of the, the reasons to look at, something which can be localized, whether we can rely on the FCA or the Fiat to give us the powertrain. and therefore, the Fiat engine and the Fiat transmission is something that was a part of the initial offering of a Harrier when it was a manual transmission. But when we decided to work as a part of a BS6 transition, the complete upgrade of the powertrain, and also we wanted to have the automatic transmission, then we actually look at what are the best options as far as the automatic is concerned, and we chose to work with the Hyundai 6-speed automatic transmission. And as you can imagine, so there is the Tata Motor in India, there is the Fiat in Italy, there is the Hyundai in Korea, with three different locations, three different time zones, and language challenges. But I think the goal was quite common for everybody. I think it was absolutely clear that we have to make a big success out of the product. And I must really thank, whether it is the Fiat, whether it is the Hyundai, and the other tier 1 vendors which have been the part of the program. Not to forget about the after treatment, where it's a complex after treatment which is a part of the
Correct.
BS6
Because
transition.
it's an SCR system.
Correct. So we also had to work with those tier 1s or tier 2s. So therefore it was a confluence of so many vendors. But I think, as you rightly said, the Fiat, the Hyundai and Tata Motor combo was actually a big challenge. But teams have really, the risen to deliver it on time.
Absolutely, and working in this sort of situation, I guess you are prepared with for any collaboration
Absolutely.
going forward because you know the nuances of it.
Yes.
But coming back to the product, Mr. Petkar, I've been seeing over here, there's a lot of focus on dimensional accuracy. I'll be honest, there were certain shut lines in certain areas where they didn't quite line up. Obviously, those are challenged. But what is it? Is it in the end just recalibrating the tools and fixtures to get that absolute dimensional accuracy? How does it go from, let's say, job one to where we are today in terms of improvement?
Yeah, so we always look at something called as a perceived quality. I mean, the one that you see visibly is one part, but unless you take the magnifying glass and look at each and every part, you don't come to know whether it is really going to deliver as a final product to the customer. And therefore, the quality was a big, quality improvement was a big objective for us. And number of areas, I must say that in terms of the accuracy of the body panels, in terms of the accuracy of the parts which get installed on the body panel, in terms of, I would say, the clearances, the tolerances, in terms of, when there is a joinery, whether the joinery is correctly done or not. And we spend a lot of time in ensuring that there is a correct joinery, the correct, the location of the weld spot, the quality of the weld spot, and also not to forget about, when you have not a nice mating of the parts or not a uniform welding, then there is every tendency of the external noise seeping into the passenger cabin.
Right.
And therefore, we focus a lot in terms of how much, that we call it in our terminology, something called as a EBHS, which is nothing but equivalent of an aperture size.
Right.
So what should be the target for that aperture size, and what should be the flow that should be allowed to come inside, which is signifies the NVHA performance from the complete body shell. So lot of the attention was paid to that in ensuring the accuracy and the quality of the body panels and the joinery.
So that's interesting. So I want to then lead to the welding, which we've also seen over here. The welding is done, and I believe there's a lot of focus on even the welding process.
Yes.
Because that's what gives you your NVH, that's what gives you your stiffness also.
Absolutely.
Again, clearly with BS6, was there a slight improvement there? Because I think everything added up, or with the new variants. How is that evolution being, and what did you learn? What were the lessons learned? Because it's the first time you're doing a monocoque of this, let's say magnitude over here, and it's a completely new platform. So I'm sort of learnings. But I noticed that you've got a geometric platform where it's like a mini jig, where everything's very accurate, even in something like a pallet. Sorry, I meant a geometric pallet. So again, focus on accuracy there. But what were the learnings on the weld side of it? Because clearly stiffness is very good, quite important. NVH has also dramatically improved. Was that all down to the welding, or were there some other interventions as well?
Yeah, so when we migrated from the BS4 to BS6, of course, beside the upgrade in terms of the emissions, in terms of the powertrain, and in terms of the automatic or the sunroof, we had a lot of focus on the quality of the joinery. And, because that has a direct bearing on the NVH performance, NVH behavior inside the car. And we wanted to look at a continuously robust, reliable, the method by which you can, blindfolded get a quality as far as the weld performance is concerned. And that was a big focus area. Even though the BS4 as a product was good, but, there also were the vibes in terms of when the NVH can even be better.
Right.
And then when we look at that, and we took the feedback from the market also very seriously, and we actually went, the parameter by parameter, the joinery by joinery, the panel by panel, and then we also did focus a lot in terms of the welding quality. And what is important in the welding and the joinery is to ensure that all the weld spots are getting correctly, welded. There is no missing weld spot. Then the quality of the weld is going to be very accurate, and there is going to be a great degree of a consistency. It's not about producing 50 panels good
Right,
and then having a
consistency is
issue.
critical.
Consistency is going to be very important, and thankfully the people in the line, manufacturing engineering, the quality engineering, they did a stupendous job in terms of making sure that there is every attention that is paid to the details in terms of the quality of the joinery.
That's interesting. So the quality of the joinery, or the way is that really the source of good NVH? In which case, if that's sorted, you don't have to spend on melt sheets and insulation panels, which add weight and cost. Is that really the secret? Get the welding, get the panels right, get the BIW absolutely spot on for NVH and stiffness.
Yeah, so as the basic powertrains have become silent because of thanks to the common rail, even on the diesel.
It highlights the everything else.
Actually, therefore, it highlights all the other noises on the vehicle, and what we call them as the BSR, the buzz and the squeaks and the rattles.
Right.
And therefore, those actually come into the play when you have the weak joinery, and you have sort of the leakage path.
Correct.
From the engine compartment to the driver cabin compartment, and therefore joinery is important definitely from the NVH point of view. It is also equally important from the safety point of view. So when you have a sort of a crash event, if the joinery is not good, that it can actually create even the hazardous situation. So therefore, we have paid a specific attention as far as the weld quality and the joinery is concerned. And as you said, for Tata Motor, it was the first experience as far as the monocoque on the bigger SUV.
Right.
While the passenger cars, take the case of say Tiago or the
Correct.
Nexon or the Bolt and the Jazz before that, they have been monocoque.
But the engineering and dynamic parameters are different.
So you have a longer wheelbase, you have a,
the longer wheelbase has more torsional flexing which there is.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Right. No, so that's interesting. Just last few questions, Mr. Petkar, is that the other thing I want to talk to you about is focus on sealants. Again, I think quite important over there from a stiffness point of view, and again from an NVH point of view. So I mean, what I'm seeing over here is, frankly, your mechanicals are sorted, but I think that last 5% you want to get in terms of real refinement and the quality. So again, on the sealant side, I think a lot of effort being put over there, because that also gives you a bit of stiffness and NVH advantage.
Yeah, so I think when it comes to the sealant and when it comes to the acoustic shield, one has to be extremely careful, because in order to get a superior noise performance, you can always compromise in terms of putting a heavy pads, and that's not in the interest of the cost, not in the interest of the weight of the vehicle. And therefore, while doing the engineering in terms of the NVH improvement, a very careful thought was given that which are the areas from which are the sources of a noise. And therefore, rather than applying one uniform treatment across all the BIW and the roof panel, we actually found out which are the areas which are sensitive from the leakage path point of view and from the NVH infiltration point of view. And those are the areas which have been identified in terms of providing the sealant. And in many areas, as you might have seen, that we also have used the injectable foam. And that injectable foam basically is to provide a separation and provide the noise isolation.
Right. And lastly, Mr. Petkar, going forward, we've got Gravitas coming. Obviously, I'm sure a lot will be put into that as well. Clearly, Harrier is now at a certain level. What's the next step can we see? Can we see rear disc brakes coming at some point? Can we see ADAS in the future? Because if you want your 5-star rating, you might need some of that. And clearly, you made some things like the ORVM, you've taken customer feedback, made that smaller. So just in the evolution, I know this is the next step, but it's a constant learning. You've got Gravitas around the corner. So just what can we look forward to?
Yeah, so the Harrier is currently based on the Omega architecture.
Correct.
And as the Omega architecture stands for, it's absolutely a modular architecture which is capable of delivering the multiple products. So it can have the range of the wheelbase, it can have the range of the top hat, and also it can have the range of powertrain options and technology stack. Whether you talk about the ADAS, you talk about the infotainment, or you talk about even the powertrain combinations. So therefore, the architecture by itself lends to create multiple products, multiple variants, and therefore in the Geneva in the 2019, we did showcase the bigger version,
Correct.
under the name Buzzard that time,
Right.
which was a manifestation of what can actually the architecture deliver.
Right.
And therefore, the Gravitas is a manifestation, in terms of what the next product the Tata
Right.
Motor can deliver
Right.
On the Harrier,
Correct.
on the Omega architecture.
Right. So it's been future proof for many more variants.
Yes.
Many more body styles.
Yes.
Multiple engines.
Yes.
And a more sophisticated ENE or electrical architecture to take the newer technology.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thanks so much for talking to us. I wish you all the best. Yeah, that was a quick deep dive into the Harrier and how it has evolved from 2019 when it first made its launch to actually coming up to 2 years. And this model actually has been one of the drivers of Tata Motors' stunning growth. Of course, the more mass products are the bigger volume ones, but this is a flagship product, a really difficult product for Tata Motors to establish in a very competitive segment. But the company has just done that, and there's going to be more to come with the launch of the Gravitas. Thanks so much for talking to us
Thank you.
today.
Thank you. My pleasure.